Hi, I'm Alex Hopkins with Connect and Collaborate, your on-air producer today and always, actually. Sorry about that. But today with me, we are talking transportation, and we have Laurie Brown. She owns and is the co-founder of Precision Logistics, and we have Doug Draper with us. He is the business developer for Acme Distribution. But what these two have in common, besides distribution logistics, is that they are part of the Denver Transportation Club. And we have some exciting news. While Doug is a board member, Laurie just became president in January. Congratulations.
All right.
Thank you. That's after being there for 35 years.
Oh, fantastic. So you're saying that term, Sid, is a little long to wait for.
No, it was the first time I was willing to do it, I think.
Yeah.
So what happened that freed you up to be able to become president?
I don't know if it was freeing me up as much as it was that I didn't want to do education anymore. I'd done it for 3 years, and I thought it was time to do something different. And we had some unexpected things happen for the past president, and I just decided to step in for her.
Wonderful. Now, DTC, Denver Transportation Club, we'll probably refer to it as DTC
Sure.
from here on out. It's 112 years old this year,
Yeah.
correct?
Hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, when people hear that, they're like, is it, you got the numbers correct? Because that seems like it's a big number. But yeah, 112 this year.
Yeah, well, happy anniversary, you guys.
Thank you.
So, how did DTC get founded? Why is DTC so important?
Sure. Yeah, I'll jump in and kind of get things started. But
Yeah.
so 1906, it really started as a collaboration of people in the rail industry. So you think at that time the United States was growing linear, right, from east to west, and the only way to move product around at that time was through the rail. There was really no cars or trucks out on the road. And Colorado, what I was, Laura and I were talking, it was like an island, right? And we kind of still are. There's not a whole lot left or right, north or center. And so trains were really the only way to get product, people into this market. And so that was a huge driving force with the history of transportation and logistics in Colorado is rail-based. And so 112 years ago, that was really the primary mode. And so it was a collaboration of not only what we call shippers, people that are using those type of services, and then the rail industry itself. It was the Rio Grande and the Santa Fe Railroad were the primary ones here in Colorado. So that's the origins behind it.
That's lovely. So, DTC has a very solid relationship with logistics, right? So what's the relationship like? Why is that so important to DTC, if I can ask that?
Well, I think the whole supply chain is what we've developed during this time. We go from, you have a product that is made in China, you've got to get it to the United States. You put it on a ship, then you put it on a truck when it gets to, Oakland, California, and then the truck takes it to a train, and the train takes it here, it gets off, and it goes to a warehouse, and from the warehouse it has to go out to the individual stores. So there's so much involved that I think that's why we decided that we needed to have this group together, because it's not just one piece anymore.
Right.
It's all interconnected.
Yeah, I love that. So what do you have going on right now that you would like to focus on?
Yeah, I would say that one of the things that we've developed over the years is really an educational background.
Yeah.
Not only, it went from trains 112 years ago to trucks and planes and boats and the whole 9 yards. And so really education is a big focus with the club right now, not only outreach to people that are in the industry, but as we were talking earlier, this is a career that you can get into, and sometimes people don't realize it. And so advocacy for the logistics and supply chain industry as a whole, and going to career fairs for high school kids in that nature, and saying, hey, do you know how a product in China gets to the shelf, right? And there's some cool, when you get into it and you realize, hey, it gets on a boat and it was made in a factory and it's in a warehouse, it sounds kind of boring. But if you get into the connectors of all the different modes and how it gets there, it's pretty interesting. And you can have a really successful and profitable career. It's a good way to make a living. And I joke with my wife that I'm great at a cocktail party because I know a little bit about a lot of stuff, right? Because it really
right.
it touches, everything that we're doing and looking at here was involved with the supply chain.
Yeah. Well, and I think I agree with you. I think a lot of people take it for granted, right?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Well, of course it gets here by magic. What do you mean?
Right.
Nobody's doing the background details for that. It's the same, kind of how does food get to a grocery store, right? That kind of mentality. Well, it's just there. What do you mean?
Right.
They don't think about the process of, going to different places and across the board. I do want to ask you, it's kind of a relative topic, NAFTA. That's big on renegotiation right now, and the supply chain, I think, is one of the aspects that we're forgetting. We know that manufacturing is going to get hit hard. We know that agriculture is going to get hit hard if we don't come to a renegotiation or if we get rid of NAFTA completely, but the supply chain is going to hurt pretty bad, right?
Yeah. I'll let you start with
that.
Well,
they're working on a lot of different things and lobbying for a lot of different things. And obviously, the transportation industry would like to keep NAFTA in place. We are at the Transportation Club planning a panel for the NAFTA in September or October of this year, just to get everybody together and see what's going on, because it's going to really affect everybody.
Now, can people get involved with that?
Yes, and we will have to, when we get it all taken care of and all set up, we'll get you involved and let you know where it's going to be and when it's going to be.
Right. Yeah, so denvertransportation.org.
Yes.
I always joke that we're a .org, not a .com, right?
Well, yeah.
For advocacy. So if folks want to just go to that website at any time, that where we post all of our activities, whether educational based, like Laurie just mentioned, or social activities that we get involved with. But yeah, I would say that summertime, as far as the educational aspects of the organization, kind of wanes a little bit, and we do our golf tournaments and things. But then in the fall, we really ramp up and try to have information lunches, different gatherings, and talk about topics that are very relative to this industry.
Right, and we just had a CDOT event.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, and it was great because they came in and told how this I-70 corridor is going to affect all of these companies around here, because there's so many trucking companies around here. And, you're talking about cars for most people, but we're talking about trucks. Yeah. And it's going to really affect the way that they get around.
Exactly.
So we had it was well attended. I think we had over 70 people there.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, people don't realize unintended consequences may be part of it, but there were some folks we were trying to get engaged, and they're like, I don't really work along I-70, it doesn't really impact me. And we're like, okay, well, it really is going to impact you, because those trucks are going to have to get diverted somewhere, and your commute, whether it be 15 miles away, is going to be impacted because of the route the trucks are going to have to take, and really understanding the demolition and just the aspect of how vehicles are moving, cars, trucks, the whole 9 yards. And so it is going to really impact things and people more than they may realize. Why is my shipment delayed? Well, it didn't make it to the warehouse. Well, how does that relate to me, because I didn't buy my product for another, well, it sat in the building for another day, and the shelf was barren because of this, that, or the other. So all these little things that you wouldn't think of truly will be impacted when they start tearing that road apart.
Indubitably, I'm sure. Yes, it's my Amazon Prime. I need it here.
Yeah,
it's going to be impacted, right?
Yeah, and if you look at the growth of Colorado and in our industry, the expansion's really out east, right? The land's cheaper. That's where the warehouses are. Amazon built their huge facility out there, and so the population is still west, right? A significant amount of it. So
there's only one way to go across.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
And so if you have Amazon and you want your 2-hour delivery, well, it's coming from 3 miles east of Aurora, and it's got to drive clear across town, and you got to go through 70, and so that's going to be impacted.
Oh, goodness.
I think even one of the things that they're planning on doing is have CDOT's going to talk to E470 and see if we can figure out a way to get the trucks on that road, because they need somewhere else to go. If you want to avoid Denver altogether, go around it. But because of the tolls, they won't do it. And because they don't have trucks on there right now, I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah. We are going to have Tamara Rollison from CDOT on tomorrow, actually. So I'm going to I'm going to have some good questions to ask her for sure. I do want to ask, so yesterday we spoke with Alliance Air Charter, and they do a lot of automotive air shipping. And one of the things that they're having problems with is a shortage of pilots. But we also see that on the trucking side of things.
Yes.
Is there anything that you guys have plans for? Is there any solutions here for this?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a magic bullet or something out there, but again, it's more education, because the perception, and we were talking earlier, that trucking, there's not many people that say, I want to be a truck driver and I like to be away from my house for 2 weeks at a time and I'm in behind a truck. I mean, that's not a very sexy type of industry, and so there's lots of challenges that we have, and there is no magic solution or pixie dust that's going to fix it. And so there's lots of logistical not workarounds, but different ways to move product and things of that nature, rail being one of them. So to get a product from here to Atlanta, Georgia, there's other ways to get it there and not just be in a truck where you can drive it on the rail system, as we had mentioned, the founding principles, or not principles, but the founding of the club.
Yeah.
You know, rail is kind of making a renaissance and coming back. And if I'm a truck driver, I don't mind getting in a truck and driving for 8 hours a day and then being home.
Right.
Just like you would go to your job.
Yeah.
And so there's ways to get the product on the long haul, the long mile, from Denver to Atlanta. And there's a local guy in Denver making the pickup and delivery, and there's a local guy in Atlanta that's making the pickup, and let the train
do the work.
Take the long haul.
Yeah.
And you have those drivers in the final mile or the first mile.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the ways that we're dealing with what the heck are we going to do when there's a driver shortage, because there's a lot of people retiring and there's a lot of people not backfilling those positions.
I'd imagine somebody that has maybe a toddler, right? The terrible twos, maybe they would like to leave for about 2 weeks.
Exactly.
You're right.
Very true.
And a lot of companies are offering people bonuses to come on, and they're paying them very well. They're paying them like $65,000 to $70,000 a year, but they have to work for that company for like 2 years or something. They sign a contract, but they'll get bonuses of $5,000 to just drive it, to learn how to drive a truck, and they'll pay for their driving school.
Wow, that's an incentive right there. I think I might have a new career on the horizon.
There you go.
Yeah.
But it is a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. It's not an easy job by any means.
Yeah.
So what is coming up for you guys? I know you mentioned your golf tournament. What else do we have in the works?
Oh, you have a good, exciting thing to say, don't you?
Oh.
Well, yeah. So one of the, we talked about education, and one of the events that the Denver Transportation Club puts on that I've been involved with for the last 10 years is
the biggest one we put on.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Is Operation Stimulus.
Yeah.
And it is an educational forum where we bring students from across the country that are getting degrees in supply chain and logistics. So these are college kids, undergraduates, that are looking to take their career with supply chain logistics, things that we just mentioned. So we bring them to Colorado, and we have a 2-day seminar where they put on a case competition. So what that essentially means is a couple weeks before they come, we give them a fictitious scenario. Here's a problem. How would you solve it? And they come out and present their solution to some judges, and the judges are professionals in the industry, like Laurie and myself. And then the second day is a professional conference where we talk about real-world situations, things that we're speaking about today. I always joke it's book smarts and street smarts, because these kids are in a classroom and they're learning from a book, and here's what you're supposed to do. And then there's the reality of, like anything else, here's what it, how it really unfolds.
When the poop hits the fan, really.
You said that, not me. So, but yes, that's correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
You nailed it. That's the street smarts aspect of it.
Yeah.
So that is at the first weekend in February. So we're still several months out. But Laurie had mentioned the really great, cool thing that we were able to do is just a couple of weeks ago, Chris Spear, who is the president of the American Trucking Association, is committed to be our keynote speaker. And people are like, well, who's that, right? So it is the North American Association for truck drivers. He is a lobbyist. He's based in Washington, D.C. He's the guy that sits down with the president and talks about what are we doing with some of the issues that we've spoken about. So it's going to be a phenomenal draw, and people in the industry, I think it's going to really be something to participate and join. So he will be the keynote speaker on Friday, February 1st.
Okay.
It's at the Renaissance Hotel, which is just down the street from here at I-70 in Quebec. And it should be
Leave
great.
early for the traffic that
There you go.
It'll
be in full swing then.
Yeah.
So, like I said, the website, denvertransportation.org.
Yeah.
We'll really start ramping up the marketing efforts right after the summer's over. Usually Labor Day is when we really kick it into high gear.
Yeah.
But, I would say as far as keynote speakers and interest and relevance to what's going on in transportation, he is going to be phenomenal. We've heard him speak, and he can control the room and really engage people, so it'll be fun to have the audience of 170, 180 people in there with these kids that are just going to be wide-eyed and we're like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
And it'll be great. So we're excited about it.
Yeah, we are excited about it. And we have our golf tournament is coming up this summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's on June 7th at Raccoon Creek, and you can find out about it on denvertransportation.org.
Now, what is the golf tournament for? Is that to raise money?
To raise money for the Denver Transportation
Okay.
Club Educational Fund.
Educational fund. Okay, I was curious. So that goes to help towards the operation stimulus.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big help in the funding that we need for that.
Yeah. Like I said, we're a .org, not a .com. So every bit of money that we can help really is not to necessarily throw social events. It's to have the funding needed to help support the educational advocacy of the group. And so that'll help with Operation Stimulus. One of the things we do in the fall is career fairs. Whether it's Denver Public Schools or Cherry Creek or Adams County, they bring the 8th graders who are about to get into high school and really talk about careers in general, not specific to transportation. So we would be part of that entity. And obviously we need money when we set up our shop and explain what we're doing, what is logistics all about, we need some money to make sure that's a successful event for us. So that's where some of that money is going to in those fundraising efforts.
Fantastic. I love that so much. And so I realize that it is April now, and so you did have the Operation Stimulus event this last February.
Yep.
Pretty successful though, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about how this year's was and how it's going to differ from next year?
Yeah, no, that's great. So this year we had the most schools in attendance, right?
Yeah.
So there was years where we capped it at 12 schools. This year we opened it up and there was 19.
Ooh.
And our goal for 2019 is to hit the 20 mark. And it's a North American entity. So there's 2 schools from Canada that come down.
Oh, fun.
And, these are, I always say, all education's important, but you're like, okay, well, who comes to these things? There's programs, Michigan State is in attendance, Penn State, Syracuse, Arkansas, Texas Tech, where these are major organizations where they bring their A team out here to really be engaged. So to answer your question, it was the largest event we've had in the past, which has been great. The attendance from the professionals was pretty solid as well. We have a phenomenal reception on Thursday night, which is very well attended. So I think that the gauge is, for me personally, is how many schools are in attendance, how robust and engaging is the case that we give to the students, right? It needs to be relevant, engaging, and challenging.
Yeah.
And we had a really good case last year. And then from a business perspective, how many seats do we have in for the keynote?
Yeah.
And we need to be, we like to have that up close to, 200. And I think with Chris being our keynote this year, we should be able to hit that mark.
Yeah. So what was the case this year? That's obviously the big part of Operation Stimulus is this case study, right?
Well, I'll get into it a little bit. But
Okay.
so it,
you don't have to give us the secret sauce. I understand.
No, it was.
It's complicated, I think,
Oh,
than
okay.
anything else.
Yeah, it's fun. So it took a very basic idea of there was a company that made a blender, right?
Okay.
And they had to source the parts for the blender all over the world.
Yeah.
And what does it cost for the blade of the blender and the plastics? And are you going to mold the plastic in the U.S. or bring it overseas? And what's the cost to do that? And then we'll throw in kind of a twist that says, oh, by the way, you decided to source all of your products from China. There's a port strike, and now you can't get your product, and it's 2 weeks delayed. What are you going to do? Because people still want to buy the blender on the shelf. So how do you now source your product when there's, a strike going on? So, it's a fun little exercise, but it's real-world scenarios that, even though it makes a lot of sense on paper, to buy your products in another country, which is fine, or in the U.S., things happen. And how are you going to respond? And oh, by the way, I don't want to pay more than $25.99 for a blender on the shelf when your cost just went up because of things you couldn't control. So that's the type of presentations that the kids will be up there, and they do a pretty good job. So we've done some really interesting case studies over the year, and we've had some interesting solutions from the kids. But by far and away, you sit there and you're like, wow, these guys really know what's going on.
Yeah. I would imagine that seeing them have it click together is probably exciting for you guys, right? It's
been great. One thing that has evolved with the OpStim event is we've had a couple of companies come in and do interviews. So you think of, you got 19 schools. Each school has about 4 or 5 students that participate. So you have a captive audience of 100 students who want to be in supply chain and logistics. So we've had companies come in and interview. John Deere came in a couple of years ago and hired some folks. White Wave Foods, which makes silk soy milk, if you've heard of them. They did some interviewing.
Miller Coors did.
Miller Coors has done it. FedEx has come in and do it. So it's almost a career fair, a case competition, a professional conference. It's a really fun 48 hours when they come into Colorado.
Multifaceted event there.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. So who won the case? Now, is it by school, or do you mix the students up with each other?
No, it is by school.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So we come up with a final 4. I won't go into the formulas and all that kind of stuff, but you have the 19 students or schools this year that presented. We came down to the final 4. They re-present on Friday afternoon with a case twist, so they have to think on their feet a little bit about
Okay, so you don't tell them the twist, so they know ahead of time that they're making a blender.
Yep.
And I imagine this has been going on long enough that they realize there is a twist coming, they just don't know what it is?
That is correct. They know something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And there's a student breakfast on Friday morning, and that's when we give them the case twist. Like I said, there's a port strike or whatever, and then we give them an hour to figure out what their new workaround is.
That's very real life right there.
Yeah, exactly. And so we don't announce the final 4 until lunch. So all 19 schools have to prepare. Yeah. Because they don't know if they won or not.
Yeah.
We announce it, and then we immediately go into those final presentations. It's been fun. So
I would imagine it's very rewarding for you guys to see kids think on their feet like that. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Any other final thoughts here in the last couple minutes that we got? We want to talk about stuff coming up or why people should get involved with DTC.
Well, like we talked about earlier, everything that everybody touches moves somewhere on a truck or a train or a plane. Yeah. So everybody should want to be involved because it's there's nothing that happens in our world without it. And if we didn't have truck drivers and people like that, we wouldn't have anything. So it's important for everybody to get involved with the Denver Transportation Club, no matter what. We have people that are bankers that are involved. Mm-hmm. We have all different kinds of people that want to participate. Maybe they want to talk to all the truck drivers, or maybe they want to talk to the trucking companies. They want to meet the shippers. We have, Ardent Mills as a member. Miller Coors is a member. We have lots of just different kinds of people. We have warehousing. We have, 3PLs. We have trucking companies. Every different kind of facet that goes into transportation. And I think that that's why anybody especially somebody in manufacturing. Yeah. You're going to have to ship it.
Exactly.
Yeah, very true. So, and then the other piece, so that's the big scope. And then obviously we have those educational events that are very topical, like the I-70 corridor and the NAFTA and things of that nature. So you can get involved with the club on a holistic approach, like what is this industry all about? Yeah. And then there's also, if you're not that excited about that, but you want to know how's it going to affect my drive when I-70 gets blown up? Yeah. Or what's going to happen with tariffs and NAFTA? There's very specific topical events that you can look into and get engaged. So that would be 2 different ways that you could get involved.
And we have a lot of networking. We do a lot of networking.
Which is awesome for every industry. Mm-hmm. So again, visit denvertransportation.org. Yep. All right. And also listen to this podcast and more at cobrt.com/radio-podcast. Thank you so much. It's been lovely having you guys on. We look forward to talking again in the future.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.